There we go.
Hello and welcome to Club Ponytail, as we call it sometimes here. My name is Taylor DeWicki. I'm here with Emma Spencer. We'll do a little introduction before we dive into the talk. How many people here have been to one of our talks before? Oh my God, we got a bunch of newbies. All right. Those who have been to our talk before, this talk is a little new, so you're not hearing the same thing. You're going to hear a lot of rumors. Some of them are substantiated rumors. Some of them are just rumors, and we're trying to figure them out. But I'll introduce ourselves. My name is Taylor DeWicki. I'm a local. I grew up in Harbor Springs. I was obsessed with Club Ponytail my entire life, and I decided I wanted to be a documentarian, so I became a documentarian, and my focus has always been true crime, and I've done films on gangsters, notorious gangsters, so the Purple Gang is right up my alley. During my career, I've got an Emmy nomination. I've got different accolades from different press things, and it's been a really fun career so far, but during COVID, I moved back home, and I found myself in the tunnels at Club Manitou. And in doing so, I got to meet some really talented students over at the Harbor Springs High School. They have a program there called Audio Engineering and Video Editing, AEVE for short. And that's where I got to meet Emma Spencer. She was a student over there, and I convinced her to join our nonprofit team and be our intern and work on a bunch of different things, but mainly a documentary.
Well, that's scary. Okay.
And Emma is graduating this year. Emma's also the daughter of Marcy and Jimmy Spencer here at Pond Hill Farm. So we like to call her the Princess of Pond Hill. So we're gonna dive into this talk. It's a new talk. We have no clue how long it'll take, so it'll be fun, but it's mostly rumors. The format's kind of going to go like, I'm going to give a summary of Club Manitou. Emma will give a summary of Club Ponytail. We'll go through all the artists that played here. And then we're going to dive into all these kind of rumors we've heard from different people in town about different properties and different areas, and kind of give you an idea of what we're trying to do over at that mysterious property. There's a bunch of people I want to thank, but I'll do that at the end. All right. Emma, this is going to be a little jazz. You're just going to have to feel when to flip here.
I'll go with my intuition. Okay.
Okay. All right, show of hands. How many people here have heard of the Purple Gang of Detroit? Okay, almost everyone. Wow, that was amazing. I had never heard of them before I started this, but for those who don't know, Michigan had their own kind of mafia, or as we like to call it, dirty, rotten gangsters, notorious gangsters. They were the Purple Gang of Detroit, and they were the only all-Jewish gang in American history, primarily known for bootlegging and rum running during Prohibition. They got their nickname because they started as like young criminals, like teenage boys, robbing from storekeepers and shopkeepers, beating people up in the streets for their money. And the shopkeepers said they were no good, they were rotten and spoiled, like purple meat, dirty purple meat. So that's how they got the name Purple Gang. If you ask anyone in the Purple Gang, it never existed. They don't know what you're talking about, but that's par for the course for a gangster. Michigan went dry 2 years before the rest of the country, so our Purple Gangsters had a real leg up on the competition, a big head start, which resulted in ginormous sums of money. I still can't quite understand it half the time, how they have just seemingly unlimited amounts of money. They controlled about 75 to 80% of all booze coming in from Canada. So they had a 2-year head start. They had almost a full monopoly on Canadian booze, to the point where Al Capone and all the Italians in New York, when the whole country went dry, they turned to the Purple Gang and they're like, yo, hook us up. And they're like, we got you. We've been doing this a while. The Purple Gang of Detroit, here's some of them, are originally comprised of 4 Bernstein brothers, Ray, Abe, Joe, and Izzy. And if you scroll, Emma, I think I have their mugshots coming up, maybe. Go one more. Yep, go back. That is Abe Bernstein. He's the leader of the Purple Gang. The Godfather, the most bad one. Next. That one's Ray. Ray was the hothead. He would shoot. He would murder a lot. And he was mainly just known for being very murdery. And he's the one original Bernstein brother that ended up in prison almost for his entire life. You can go to the next one. That's Joe Bernstein. Joe Bernstein went legitimate. He did not go legitimate. He had these clothing stores. Everyone's like, he's legit. No, he was not legit. He was betting on horses all the time. He owned horses and he cheated with horses. That was a common kind of racket for our guys, is horse racing. I don't get into it this time, but they loved the horses, the ponies. And that's Izzy, the youngest. Izzy used to hang out with Bugsy Siegel in New York, and they would drive around and terrorize people. The Purple Gang were kind of known because they were so violent, other gangs would call them to murder people for them. And so they would go to a new town, they would kill someone, and then they would leave. And the cops are like, who was that guy? We've never seen him before. And because they weren't from there, they were from Detroit. Okay, you can go to the next one. There's a bunch of other ones we'd like to talk about, but we don't have enough time today. But this guy right here, his name's Sam Bernstein. He was not related actually to the first four Bernsteins. He's like a fake cousin. They called him Fatty. He was extremely fat. He liked building armored cars and robbing banks. Here he is in the Manitou with our gangster, Al Gerhardt, which I'll talk a lot about, counting money. I believe, and don't quote me on this, I don't know for certain, but these are all these promo shots they shot of an illegal speakeasy casino. And I think Virgil Haynes took them. That's my guess, based on the amount of photographers in this town. But this is Sam Bernstein. The next person, Emma, is Harry Millman. Harry Millman was very, very violent, more violent than the original brothers. We mention him because we're friends with his, great-grandniece, Trixie Millman, who's been here to Ponytail Farm. The next one is Eddie Fletcher. We just became friends with one of his great nephews, I think. It's been a joy to do this work and to reach out and connect to these long-lost family members with kind of just the stories. I mean, we have no relation to these purple gangsters outside of being from Harbor Springs. And then, of course, Al Gerhardt, which I think I have a photo of him. Nope. Al Gerhardt. You'll see him later. Al Gerhardt is our gangster. And we'll talk about him in detail in a bit. But there's a funny thing about the Purple Gang. After around the mid-1930s, you completely stop hearing about them in kind of the paper. They used to make all these headlines, and you stop hearing about them. They're virtually extinct. And as papers and historians say, they were either dead in prison or went into legitimate business. I always found that strange, seeing as Club Manitou, the Purple Gang's most exclusive, most posh, and most secret speakeasy casino here in Harbor Springs, Michigan, was open until 1953. So that's a long time after mid-1930s, almost 20 years of business up here in Harbor Springs by a dead, forgotten gang. So it's really fun to read old history books and never really see a mention of Club Manitou, yet we have a lot of history up here. So go back one. So this is an advertisement for Club Manitou. It's my favorite advertisement. It looks so classy. I like to believe that that is Al Gerhardt himself. This would have been the 40s, 1946. I jump into it here, so let's keep going. Next one. This is Club Manitou. This is our only real good picture of it from back in the day. But now we're going to talk about Club Manitou of Harbor Springs. Their ads always said dial 1. If you were in Harbor, you just had to dial 1 and you get the Manitou. It was pretty cool. Again, like I said, it was the most exclusive and most secret club in Harbor Springs. It's more than the Little Harbor Club. Sorry. You couldn't really get into this club unless you had money, a lot of it. It was built in 1929 in tandem with the Harbor Springs Airport. They were built at the exact same time. On paper, and actually in the paper, in Harbor Light, Club Manitou was a supper club. But below, in the basement, it was a speakeasy casino nicknamed Slim's Lounge. That was our gangster's nickname. His nickname was Detroit Slim. It was named after our owner, Al Slim Gerhardt. That's the club today. Maybe I rushed you, sorry. When he opened this casino, Al Gerhardt was only 22 years old. How? How did a 22-year-old get the money to run a casino? Well, these casinos were never owned by one man. They were always owned by a group of men, businessmen, as they would say. The papers called them businessmen. Make no mistake, these men were not businessmen. They were gangsters. The main owner of this club was Abe Bernstein, the Purple Gang leader. I don't know, let's see. There's the club again today. We like lighting it up purple. Yeah, there we go. There's Abe Bernstein and there's Al Gerhardt and Sam Bernstein. Colorized it. Let's keep going. Abe Bernstein, the Purple Gang leader, owned the club. You see, Al Gerhardt, this guy, was the chauffeur for Abe Bernstein, the leader of the Purple Gang. Chauffeur in gangster speak also means personal bodyguard. They're always the person with them. So for Abe Bernstein, it was a no-brainer. He trusted Al with his life. So when he opened a new casino, he trusted Al with that. Other owners will be speculated from now until the end of time, likely by me. But for me, it's safe to say that this gentleman was also another part owner. There's Al Gerhardt. There's our gangster. There he is with his other gangster buddies and his doorman, Paul Pepper. You had to know Paul Pepper to get in the club. There's Abe Bernstein, the head of the Purple Gang. He looks so put together and clean, but he wasn't. And this guy, this is who I'm talking about. It's safe to say that this gentleman was another part owner. This is Meyer Lansky. I always talk about Meyer Lansky. If you go to Google and you type in Jewish, gangster, and casino, this face pops up every time. He's number one. And I have FBI documents of him up here, running around, getting to no good. I'll never see it on paper, but he's in the orbit of the Manitou quite a bit. So it'd be really silly not to think he was a part owner, especially when Abe and Meyer Lansky at the exact same time had a casino in Florida together called the Colonial Inn. So they were business partners on a lot of ventures together. There it is today, all beautiful and painted. The owner, Tim Offenhauser, is here. He bought the club probably 2 years ago, I'd say 2023, maybe 3 years ago now. And we've slowly been working on fixing it up. It's beautiful, beautifully painted. The trim is nice. You wouldn't know it's almost 100 years old. Club Manitou was only open in the summer, and it only catered to wealthy summer resorters. No locals allowed. No locals are allowed. That's kind of a classic gangster thing. They didn't want to depress the local economy. They didn't want these men to lose their paycheck on Friday on the way home to their wives. And that's what would happen is wives would get really angry and call the police. And that was like a thing that casino owners worried about. They're like, we can't have the wives calling the cops on us. So only the rich point people and weekly people can come in. Of course, they had exclusive top shelf booze. They also had gambling, lots of it. From poker, blackjack, roulette, to chuck-a-luck, birdcage, and baccarat. This is... Can you... Test.
I can try turning it down, but I don't know if it'll work.
Test.
Is that better?
Yes, much better.
Cool.
I'll hold it closer. It was a hoot. Although the Manitou was open almost 100 years ago, we can still hear some stories and rumors from the Club Manitou era. It was a long time ago. But there's a great book written about Roaring Brook, the community in Harbor Springs. I just call it the Roaring Brook book. I don't really know its official name. But there's a great story in there of how the grandmas annually would get all dressed up and put on makeup and get chauffeured over to Club Manitou to gamble, much to the dismay of their husbands. Their husbands were really worried they'd get in trouble and get thrown in prison, but they did it anyway. Al had a good thing going. Al Gerhardt, the owner, had a good thing going. He paid off many cops, prosecutors, and judges. He even said he was the first bar to receive a liquor license in the state of Michigan following the repeal of the 18th Amendment. aka the end of Prohibition. Here's an image, a great map image of the club. I don't know, go to the next slide. I want to see where we are. Okay, go back one. We're not there yet. Okay, go forward. Go back to that map. Good. All right. Like I said, he paid off a lot of prosecutors and judges. Our friend Meryl Hankey's here. She has a great story of Ned Fenlon, the judge. He was the judge in the area. Really good friends with Al Gerhardt. If you would have asked him, hey, did you know Al Gerhardt? Did you like him, that dirty, rotten gangster? He said, did I like him? He put me through law school. And Ned used to run booze to and from Mackinac Island for Al Gerhardt. And the money he made doing that funded his law degree. And so once he became a judge, you can bet he was looking out for our friend, Detroit Slim Al Gerhardt. Everything was going good. When Prohibition ended, they built a second building, a new restaurant, specifically just to sling more alcohol and food. They just could do it. They had the money. They built this. The only problem was they never stopped gambling in the basement. So while liquor was legal, they were like, we ain't going to stop gambling because that is what Club Manitou was. It was a speakeasy casino. They were here for the casino, not to sell you booze. They made a lot of money. They made a lot of money there. They made a lot of money in that casino. So they built this second building. The Michigan state government hated that they wouldn't stop gambling. They tried raiding the club numerous times, but Al always got away with it. They either didn't have the right warrant or Paul Pepper, the doorman, didn't let him in. They just didn't bust them on gambling ever. So in 1953, the state of Michigan pulled the liquor license from the property completely and said, you'll never have a liquor license again in perpetuity forever. And so Al Gerhardt said, all right, that's enough. I'm going to try somewhere else. They still gambled after they pulled the liquor license off property in different locations, but they just kind of shut it down. Al packed up and moved to White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, where he opened the Colonial Club Casino, which we'll talk about later. The club sat dormant, for nearly a decade until some new owners took over and opened Northern Michigan's famous teen nightclub, Club Ponytail. Now it's your turn, Emma.
Okay, now it's my turn. As Taylor said, I'm Emma Spencer. I'm from right here where you're all sitting. And I get the honor of talking about Club Ponytail tonight. I'm just really honored to be a part of this project. I met Taylor through the AVE class, and we've got to do some great things because of it. And the people in this room are helping support that cause, so thank you all. Yeah, you want to switch? Okay, we're going to do a little swap. This is the beauty of cinema. You get to see like what happens when I'm behind the camera and Taylor tells me to do a thing and then I do the thing. Okay, so Club Ponytail. Basically, Stan and Jean Douglas were slinging whisker baskets in Petoskey when they decided to shift gears. So they moved with their children across Little Traverse Bay to Club Manitou in Harbor Springs, the clearly superior town other than Petoskey. Okay.
Say with more conviction.
The clearly superior town other than Petoskey. Thank you. Okay, they first lived in the actual Club Manitou house, which if you go back, you're all good.
Okay, here's some.
Well, yeah, this is basically the original house until they renovated the house next door, which was also a gambling den owned by Al, and we will talk about this a little bit later. They looked at the beautiful club, 2 buildings, 2 stages, and no liquor license. So what did they do? They opened Club Ponytail, a teen and collegiate nightclub. Club Ponytail was the first of many teen clubs to pop up in the U.S. during the early 60s, and our personal favorite. Dick Clark's American Bandstand helped popularize the music and dancing throughout the community and the country. Except the Ponytail, or the Tail as many of the teens called it, was not just a soda fountain dance hall. It was a full-blown teen nightclub.
That's the front of it. This is like... Hello. This is literally our only good photo of Club Ponytail. So anyone out there who might have a photo of Club Ponytail collecting dust in their closet, please let us know.
We would be so grateful. Okay, Stan and Gene then managed to bring the biggest recording artists of the time up to Harbor Springs. Literally the biggest acts of the century. A lot of them appeared on Dick Clark, and all of them were booked by the William Morris Agency. Now we're going to do a really fun part where we're going to go through all the Ponytail artists. We have a lot of them.
We'll do it slowly. This is the most exciting part of this talk. Just a note, we gave this talk earlier this year. One of our favorite people in the world, her name is Linda Douglas. If Emma's the princess of Ponytail, Linda Douglas is the princess of the Ponytail. She is the daughter of Stan and Jean Douglas, and she pointed out to me last time that the Supremes did not play at the Ponytail. I don't know where we got that from, but showing up and it's just not. Her dad said if the Supremes played at Club Ponytail, they would need the Secret Service. That's what he said. You need a lot of security. Anyway, let's go through it. When you see the Supremes, let's skip it.
Okay. I'm going to try to read it like this. So we're going to start off with the year. So in 1962, we had the High Notes, which was...
You don't have to say the second part.
Oh, okay, cool. And then we had the Belvederes in
1962 is their first year. It was a pretty lucky year.
Yes. 1963, we had Bobby Vinton. Any fans in the house? Yeah? Okay. And then I'm trying to read sideways.
Here, I can read it.
Okay.
You want to come over here and read it? I want you
Sure,
to
we
read
can
it.
swap.
Yeah, let's swap again. Let's go.
You guys get to see our real thought process. This is what happens, like every single day. How wonderful. And this was on May 3rd. $2.50. You could see Bobby Vinton on August 23rd.
Not bad.
If I could see an artist for $2.50, I would be so damn happy. Oh my
Thanks,
God.
Ticketmaster.
Okay. He was a regular in Marbone casinos and...
Don't read that. It's
okay,
fine.
that's fine. Then we had Corky and the Electras. We don't know when that was. Bobby V, July 10th and 11th for $2.
You can just read the name. You don't have to say the name.
Okay. The Statesmen, the Beach Boys, Del Shannon, the Kingstones, Brian Hyland, Louis Christie, Johnny and the Hurricanes, Freddie Cannon, Paul and Paula, John Tillotson, maybe? If I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. The Casuals. In 1964, we had Roy Orbison. Yeah. Here.
Okay, Roy Orbison, Pretty Woman, just came out. He just was in the UK, like touring, and he flew back to Michigan to play the Ponytail. And he apparently, according to Laura, stopped at the radio station and gave him the single to Pretty Woman. And the radio station Petoskey was the first radio station to play Pretty Woman in the United States. It's also one of the owner's favorite songs out of all of these bands that ever played here. So we love Roy Orbison.
All right. And then in 1965 is when we started to have really big bands. We had the Iguanas with Iggy Pop. We had the Four Tops, the Kingsmen, the Nightwalkers, the Shangri-Las. Shangri-Las. Thank you, guys. We had the Supremes, which didn't happen. Ignore that. False. Okay, Dee Dee Sharp, Dick E. And then probably the most famous show was The Animals.
The Animals. Did anyone here see The Animals at Club Ponytail? Oh my God.
Your royalty.
What did we
Wait,
have
this
here?
is 66.
This is 66. Yeah.
Said it wrong. Thank you. We want to make sure it's right. And then we had Herman's Hermits, thanks to Ward Wallstrom.
Yeah, he told us that.
We have the Shillings. We have Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels.
Heck yeah.
We have the Beau Brummels. Beau Brummels? Am I saying that right? We had the Chancellors. We had Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs.
How does that come?
In 1967, we had local bands. We don't know a ton.
There were a lot of local high school local bands that played that. Yeah.
And a lot of Battle of the Bands, which was kind of fun.
My dad played it.
He did?
There you go, yeah.
It's called the Black Laces.
The Black Laces. You know what year that was?
68.
68. Okay, we'll go ahead and add that on if it's not already on here. What's that?
All right, let's write it down. I don't have a pen. We'll do it.
At the end.
We'll play
Come see us at the end and we'll
play
write
the
it
tape
down.
back.
Okay.
All right.
Then we had, did I already see Peter and Gordon? Then we had the Outsiders, the City Limits, which were a house band. We had the Left Banky, or Bank?
The Left Bank, yeah.
The Left Bank, thanks to Ward again. And then a new discovery was Battle of the Bands on August 7th.
Yeah.
Then 1968, one of my favorite artists of all time played, Bob Seger. Them with Van Morrison played, The Music Explosion, and The Sand. And then 1969, the very last year the Ponytail was alive, we had the Amboy Dukes with Ted Nugent, Thur. Nugent?
This is why I wanted her to read them.
This is the hard part, because I don't know. I'm
yet.
trying. Okay. We had the Turtles. We had Bobby Goldsboro.
Oh, the Turtles
that
are
right?
great. I'm trying to remember the story. They either were coming from the White House or going to the White House to go play for the president's daughter. They were concerned. They weren't sure if they wanted to go to the White House to play for the president's daughter because the president was Nixon and they didn't really like Nixon. And their manager said, listen, when the president calls you to the White House to play, you go. And so they went.
Fair enough.
But they
Big
played the
year.
Ponytail like right around the same time, which is crazy.
Big year for the Turtles. We had the NC5, or the MC5,
Motor City 5.
plus the Mother Goose Spearmint. And then we had Mother Goose Spearmint Farm, the Electric Prunes, thanks to the Petoskey News Review, and the Pleasure Seekers.
Which is an all-girl like rock band, which was really cool for the time.
Dang. And then we had unrelated segments. We had Sea Fever, The Boyfriends, April Smile, and then we've got a couple of dates that we're not exactly sure about, so if you know, let us know. We got Everybody's Pillows. We got The Bottles of Goodness, HP and the Grassroot Movement. We got New Johnny and the Hurricanes, which I think we have a
No,
date
it's
for
just
that.
the same band. It's just a new...
Oh, okay. We have got a new Battle of the Bands, another new Battle of the Bands. We got Chad and Jeremy, Conway Twitty, and the Crystals.
The Crystal's amazing.
Then we got Dawn, the Guess Who,
Jan and Dean.
Jan and Dean, the Lloyds of London, Martha and the Vandellas,
Huge band.
Marvin Gaye,
Let's go.
pretty cool, The Music Explosion, Smokey Robinson.
Crazy.
We got Stevie Wonder. We got the Temptations. We got Question Mark and the Mysterians, the Demon Rum, the City Limits, Bob Hartman, David Mogan and the Grapes of Wrath, which was a house band, the Shillings from University of Arizona, and the Dirty Shames. We got the Woolies, the Ones, Chubby Checker.
Oh, I don't think that Chubby Checker played, actually. Cut him off the list. That's what the Princess of the Ponytail said.
You lied to me.
All right.
Okay.
Gone.
The Jaywalkers, the Miracles, the Isley Brothers.
Huge.
That one did happen.
The Four Seasons.
Okay.
Unclear if they actually played, according to Linda.
We're just going to say it did. Okay.
They did.
The Dave Clark Five, Bob Hartman, Jackie Wilson, The Other Kind. And then we have some celebrity sightings up in town. We had Robin Williams when he was a young boy.
Do you want to tell that?
You can tell that story.
Okay, so Linda Douglas, there's a rule at the Ponytail. You had to be above 15, I think, 15 or 16. And often kids would get dropped off who were under 15 years old. And it was the Princess of the Ponytail's job to babysit these children. And this family dropped off their son. And she just remembered he was really weird because he wore a full suit and he wouldn't stop talking. And many years later, she saw like a People magazine, and it was like...
Saw People magazine.
It was like People magazine. It was like, what did they look like when they were younger? And it was Robin Williams. And she goes, holy crap, that's who I was hanging out with. And he's from Michigan. His parents were like going to go out to dinner and didn't want to bring him, so he went to the Ponytail. Dustin Hoffman, right before Tootsie came out. Apparently someone saw him at the Ponytail. Can't recall who told us that. And then Janis Joplin's name is on the bathroom in the Ponytail. Unclear if she was there or if someone named Janice got Joplin thrown on the back of her name. Unclear.
You never know. And then this isn't on there, but wasn't there also, it's the artist. I told my mom last night. What was his name? He was on the boat and he apparently never came foot on land, but he was there. Frank Sinatra?
Oh, there's a great story about Frank Sinatra in the Roaring Brook book. So up here in Michigan, you probably know, people just kind of call you and ask you to buy your house. They're like, man, is your house for sale? And you're like, no, Dave, get away. But down in Roaring Brook, there are some houses along the road down there, little like cabins. And this older woman had this house there, And she got a knock on the door, and she opened it. It's Frank Sinatra. And he goes, will you sell your house to me? She goes, no. They left. That was just in the Rory Brook book. I mean, like, what was he doing up here? So probably at the Ponytail, who knows?
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's see. So I threw in some like advertisements from the Ponytail. There's like hundreds of them, so I can't get through all of them. But this one is advertising Bob Seger. And then the Golden Horseshoe, which I'll talk about in a minute, was the Douglas' other business, Through the Woods. They had a teen nightclub, and then they had an adult nightclub. And it's advertising Lottie the Body, who is going to be at the Golden Horseshoe. And so we'll talk about her in a minute, hopefully. Here's a picture of, I think, Club Ponytail when it first opened. So like I said, when the Manitou got their liquor license, they built the second building. That was essentially the Ponytail. That's where it lived. Like the majority of the activity went along in this building. So it kind of looks like the Manitou there, but it is the Ponytail. All right.
Okay. Do you want to swap seats again so you can do the thing?
Sure, yeah.
This is a lot of back
That
and
makes sense
forth.
if I go over here.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked about the Ponytail. There's some more images in here I want to see. There is the Ponytail, and we'll talk about that girl on the sign in a minute.
Yes, okay. So basically, teens don't drink, allegedly. So pop was the club's forte. The house soda was called the Green River Soda, and we were actually able to find the same soda. Me and Taylor got to try it, and it was really, really sweet. But apparently the teens loved it. This teen didn't love it, but you know, it's not for everyone.
Didn't like it either.
It just kind of tastes like, y'all ever have an Otter Pop or like one of those things, the ice pop? Yeah,
Yeah,
it tastes like an unfrozen ice pop. So not very appealing, but apparently the teens loved it.
Tastes like green.
Yes, tastes like the color green. The club first only served pizza before expanding to other classics like burgers, fries, sandwiches. Outside of legendary rock shows and Motown performances, the club also held some cute events for the teens.
Like a Hootenanny concert. Wait, we had another thing. I couldn't find it before the talk, but...
There was like cute themed events too. I remember they had like a hula night or something like that, like a tropical night.
Yeah,
They were
had
doing
like
fun
a
stuff.
snowball, like they were a different theme. The one thing I wanted to say about the pizza, because I just saw that someone went to Vivio's the other day. The original pizza at Ponytail is Vivio's Pizza, and Vivio's is still open in Indian River, so if you ever want to try the Ponytail pizza, go to Vivio's.
Shout out to Vivio's.
There they are making it right there.
And with all these events that they had for teens, they advertised pretty heavily in the paper.
Yeah.
I think we've got an example of that.
There's another activity.
There's another fun one. There's a lot of like competitions, battle of the bands. They got a lot going on.
There's Kingsman.
I'm jealous. I wish we still had this. That would be great. There we go.
Here's some of the advertisements.
Some of the advertisements.
Like, Jean Douglas is phenomenal at promotion. She was the one who actually designed this logo. This is, I believe, her handwriting. She was also painting the sign, the girl sign. There was a beautiful, like, girl sign on the building. There was also a girl sign down by the road, but that one disappeared quick. It's in someone's basement. Someone mentioned it to me, but they never reappeared with it.
So again, if it is in your basement or in someone you know's basement, contact us.
This is Linda, the princess of the Ponytail. There she is with Everett Kirchner at Boyne. She worked at the Golden Horseshoe, and I'll talk about it in a second.
And
Right.
while they were advertising in the paper, there was briefly a column called Ponytails, and it was written from the perspective of the sign girl. So Club Ponytail had the big sign girl, and her name was apparently Pony, and so all the advertisements were written from like Pony's perspective of like all the things happening in her club. So it was pretty cool.
And that's where we stole the title for our film.
So thank you to Linda.
Thank you, too. It's probably Jean Douglas writing those. You know.
Yeah, but
she was the heart and soul of it.
yeah. The kids loved the club, clearly. It gave them some of the most memorable nights of their lives, but unfortunately it came to a rather tragic end on the night of March 18th, 1969. Do we have any archival of the Grand Fire? So it was a massive fire. It was apparently so big it could be seen across the bay in Petoskey. A total of 4 fire departments responded. Harbor Springs, Petoskey, Charlevoix, Lansing, and East Jordan was on standby. Not only the responders, but teens from all over northern Michigan showed up to watch the club burn. Unfortunately, it could not be saved. However, the firefighters managed to save the original Club Manitou, which we are very thankful for because that's why we have all the things we have today. And we can still walk around in it and see history. It's quite remarkable considering that the buildings were connected via an underground tunnel. So pretty cool. Which brings us to the reason why we're here tonight. We're going to be talking about some of the rumors, and we're going to start off with tunnels, because apparently that's what everyone is most interested in.
Yeah, this is our first mention of the word tunnel tonight. But that is what draws us to Club Manitou, is like this, like, kind of, I colorized some of these photos to give you the idea of the scope of this fire. I always think of this as the last performance at Club Ponytail. Like, all these teenagers showed up like they would have for a show, except the show was their club burning down. And yeah, it's really sad. I've heard a lot of stories from different people, like what happened that night from their perspective, and it's just sad. So, okay, we're gonna hop into the rumors, and we have a few pieces of property here around town that we want to talk about that's not the Manitou, but connects to the Manitou. I'll start going through them, and I'll toss you a few of them as we get to them.
You want to swap or you want to stay like this?
I want to stay here because I'm going to flip this.
Cool.
All right, the first biggest rumor I've ever heard in my entire life here in Harbor Springs is that there's a tunnel connecting the Manitou to the airport, an underground tunnel. The idea being that like these dirty rotten gangsters were moving liquor and people, VIP people, and they didn't want to be seen. They could land in the airport and just walk through a tunnel to the Manitou. There's been 4 owners of Club Manitou now. The first one being the gangsters, the second one being the teen nightclub, the third one being a family with the last name of Landis, Keen and Judy Landis, and the fourth being Tim Offenhauser. The entire time they owned it, Keen and Judy Landis said, "There are no tunnels, get off our property, go away." And I grew up with his sons, they're my best friends, and we would like kind of run around the property, but I was too scared to go bother them because they were very adamant about there being no tunnels. But then right before Judy Landis passed away, she published a book with a map of the tunnels. So, I mean, there are tunnels, they just didn't want you on their property, and I don't blame them. Where does this rumor come from of the tunnels, really? A lot of it comes from like kids that went to the Ponytail.
Kids that went to the Ponytail.
Kids that went to the Ponytail, but the original rumor actually comes from, let me just steal yours.
Swap.
All right, the original rumor comes from this article, which was published in the 70s, literally right after the Ponytail burnt down, they published this article, and then they republished it quite a bit. It's recalling Harbor Springs in the cabaret era of gambling and prohibition. And this talks a lot about Gerhardt, Club Manitou. Talks about another casino we had called the Ramona Park Casino. I thought I had the zoom in of it. Okay, I'm just going to have to read it. This is where the actual, it's the way this guy wrote it, is like, if you read it a certain way, it says that there is a tunnel. So I'm just going to read the line. The tunnel tales are undoubtedly generally exaggerated. It's hard to imagine, for instance, and there is no evidence of a tunnel from Club Manitou under the road and down the hill to the Ramona Park Casino. The way he wrote it is like there is a tunnel, you know? It's a very interesting way to write that. And I believe that that sentence has permeated like this community like crazy. And it really got a hold of me too, and I was kind of like, can't imagine a tunnel connecting Club Manitou, which is up at the Harbor Springs Airport, down to Ramona Park Casino, which is right next to Weequay. I can't imagine it. But the Ramona Park Hotel that's right next door had a lot of different owners over the years. One of them, one of my favorite characters in this town, a man named Ray Brown. And when he took over the Ramona Park Hotel, he was digging up where the casino used to be to make room for a parking lot. And he said it took a lot of digging to prepare the new parking lot for the Ramona Park Hotel in Harbor Springs. Part of the job was removal of the remaining basement and foundation of the old Ramona Club, a top Michigan gambling spot 30 years ago. The excavators found a small room 15 feet below ground level. As manager Ray Brown tells us, the room contained a small card table and 5 chairs. Chips and cards, cracked and mildewed, were scattered on the floor. A workman found 5 cards laying together, turned them over one at a time. The first was a 10 of spades, and then the string continued until a straight flush was completed. I'm still wondering about the man who held this in his hand, says Brown. Did he collect? So Ray Brown is like finding these underground rooms on his property. Not a surprise. We've found some underground rooms on the Manitou property. The Ramona Park Hotel had nothing to do with the Ramona Park Casino. They were not the same owners, but they both thrived off of each other. You know, these speakeasy casinos don't exist without a healthy relationship with a hotel. When people get blasted drunk at a casino, they need to go to bed somewhere. They can't stay in the casino. Let's see if I can get rid of this. Hold on. So I did a little bit more digging. Let's see if I can play it correctly. Yes. I did a little bit more digging, and I found an FBI report from 1935 about the Ramona Park Casino and all the gangsters that owned it. Again, in the paper, they said it was owned by some Detroit businessmen, but those were gangsters. And in this, it also confirms what Ray Brown found, which are some underground tunnels. Let's see, what does this say? Okay, I'm going to read this. It comes up again, and I highlighted it earlier, but I should read off my script, huh?
Well, we can also talk about, while they were excavating after the Ponytail burned, they had this problem at the Ponytail a lot because they would be going over with the excavators with all the burned rubble, and the excavators kept just falling into tunnels and secret rooms and stuff. So a reason why we don't have a lot of the tunnel system left is because they just ran it over. So thank you to the construction guys for that.
Yeah, I'm going to go into these notes here. We had another more posh casino in town. It was called the Ramona Park Casino, and it was right next to the Ramona Park Hotel, like I was saying. Some think these two casinos, the Ramona Park and the Club Manitou, were rivals. They were not. The same men hung around both the Manitou and the Ramona Park Casino. They likely shared ownership, and they benefited from each other. There were a few different owners of this casino over the years, but the most memorable one has to be Jimmy Hayes. He bought it, burnt it down, rebuilt it bigger with turrets at the top of it, which is a common style for these gangsters in their casinos. They built turrets, lookouts with guns to stop whatever nonsense that might stop. I don't know what they were expecting. But there was this guy that was in private security for them named Herman Kays. And he had a problem with the way Jimmy Hayes was behaving, and he kept reminding Jimmy Hayes, that's not really how it's done in Harbor Springs. It's not that violent up here. The Purple Gang were never really violent up here. There's like a different set of rules in Harbor Springs. But Jimmy wasn't following those rules. He didn't listen at all. And, here, I want to show you this. This is the original casino. He burnt it down, and he built this. And this has these turrets at the top. These are classic gangster casino turrets. So, I don't know who he's going to shoot at, but they didn't like that. So the Purple Gang leader, Abe Bernstein, summoned Jimmy Hayes to his penthouse suite in the Book Cadillac Hotel in Detroit. Let's see if I have it. Yeah, Book Cadillac Hotel in Detroit. This is where Abe Bernstein lived his entire life, the elder part of his life, in the penthouse. And he ordered him up there. Here are just some notes about Jimmy Hayes and his nonsense at the Ramona Park Casino. Jimmy Hayes is reputed to have brought his own contractors from Detroit to construct the hideaways and passages at the Ramona Park Casino. During that association at the casino, he learned that the casino is equipped with underground passages and elaborate buzzer systems throughout, and at all times during the gambling periods is heavily guarded with machine guns by paid employees of the Jimmy Hayes gang. Which is probably what these turrets are for, the machine guns. But anyway, Abe Bernstein summoned him to the penthouse of the Book Cadillac Hotel, and the next morning he's found dead in an alleyway. And he was actually found with a pair of dice in his pocket, which was like they thought a calling card that someone killed him over, some gambling related thing, and that might be what happened, you know? They didn't really like what he was doing in Harbor, so he ended up dead, apparently. The third one I'm going to talk about, although I don't have a picture of it, I should have taken a picture of it, but I don't have one, is what we call the Gambling Den. And the Gambling Den is a house right next to Club Manitou, a house that Al Gerhardt also owned, and the property that likely got Club Manitou shut down. This is a great article. It's called "The Disappearing Gambling Den: Too Slow on the Fadeaway." So just to briefly explain this, this gambling den, it looks like a house, but it has a trick floor in it. And to explain, like, if this were the floor of the living room, it goes up and down like this. And it's on this with this counterweight system. And the whole idea is, like, if this were the floor up here and this were the furniture, like the tables and chairs, we'd screw all that down. And let's say that's the slot machine. When the cops come, that's not screwed down. They push the floor down, start pushing everything into the basement, and flip the floor up, and then the cops walk in and there's no gambling equipment anywhere. Except this time they got caught with their pants down, the floor got stuck, and the cops opened the door, and they're like, what the hell is this? And they got busted hard, and that building, according to them, was connected by tunnel to our building. It was all a mess, but the beauty of our gangsters is that it didn't matter, they got away with it. They ruled that the warrant was illegal. They just said, you know, they actually had to return all the gambling equipment. So they brought all the stuff back to the gangsters, put it back where they found it. It's a beautiful little story. So this is what I call Al Gerhardt's moated mansion. So I'm going to talk about one other casino here in a minute. Like I said, when Al Gerhardt was done at the Manitou, he went to White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. According to Linda Douglas, he got in trouble. He had to run away. He got in legal trouble, and Bobby Kennedy chased him out of town, according to Linda, which I totally believe. And so he moved back here to northern Michigan and built what I call his moated mansion on Crooked Lake. And so this is his house on Crooked Lake. I have Google Maps to give you an idea. If you look at Google Maps, you see Grand Point on Crooked Lake. Go right across the lake, and you'll see this property. And it's on what we believe was the old Crooked Lake Golf and Motorboat Club, or as the locals call it, the old Jewish golf course. So it's not surprising that he popped up here and built a house. What is interesting is it's a full moat around the house, and this house actually has some weird stuff going on in it, stuff we can't really explain yet. We're friends with the owners. The one thing I will say is there might be a hidden room with a big old safe in it, but you have to go meet Joe Lucier and ask him about that. And it's one of the few houses, as someone told me, on Crooked Lake with a basement. And I was just talking with Joe Lucier about all this water and how his basement's doing, and he said it's dry as a bone, and Al did a good job setting it up. Good pump action, I don't know. Do you want to talk about this one? Wait, no, I'm going to read this one. I don't want you to read this one. All right, the next property is the Golden Horseshoe. So like I said, there was another business that the Ponytail owners opened. They basically figured they had a problem. They couldn't sell alcohol, which is like a great way to make money. And so they thought, we'll open an adult nightclub. And so they did so just through the woods of the Ponytail. So the Ponytail is overlooking the Harbor Airport, and just through the woods is this building. It looks a little different nowadays. It looks like this. I always thought this was once a church, which is kind of funny because it was a burlesque nightclub. It was like the opposite of a church. So this is where people go to vote for their president, and it's also where the Golden Horseshoe was. So here's the sign that, I don't know if we hung that one up, Emma, but we have it. Oh yeah, it's right there. This is a sign for the Club Ponytail down by the road, and here's the adult nightclub sign for the Golden Horseshoe. And the Golden Horseshoe, let's see, after 5 successful years of running a teen nightclub, Stan and Jean Douglas, that's them right here, the patriarch and the matriarch, standing in the Golden Horseshoe, they decided it would be nice to sell booze. And so they opened the Golden Horseshoe, the adult nightclub. They had bands, booze, and boobs. One of the things that Linda told me is, although she was like 19 when she was working at the Golden Horseshoe, which I do have a picture of her, I think. There we go. So she worked at the Golden Horseshoe, and then on our downtime, she would make titty tassels for the dancers. And all these dancers from Detroit, Motown, all over the country, they said she made the best. And I asked her if she had any for the museum. She said she would look.
I think she's lying. I think they're somewhere.
She can make some new ones. I'll help. Here's some shots of inside the Golden Horseshoe. We have better photos of this than the Manitou and the Ponytail combined almost. This is how big the dance floor was. They used to boast they had the longest bar in northern Michigan, or maybe just Michigan. Here's all these people dancing. They had a lot of Motown, and a lot of the burlesque dancers like kind of traveled with the band sometimes too. And so sometimes there'd be really big dancers like Lottie the Body who kind of had her own thing. People built clubs for Lottie the Body. There's a guy like in Ohio that built a whole entire nightclub just for that woman. So she was a big act here. These are some great just ads, exotic topless, a new special show. If you can imagine, not everyone in Harbor Springs loved the Golden Horseshoe. And after a while, they had to kind of cut it out with the dancers and switch to comedians. And it just really didn't work. And anyway, former Playboy cover girl will be at the Golden Horseshoe, right through the woods of the teen nightclub. Here's the picture of Lottie the Body. She was the most famous person like around the Golden Horseshoe. She was here every summer. And here she is at Boyne, or maybe Nubs. Yeah, Nubs. Learning to ski. So it's pretty fun. This is the Darling Seed Company house. Now, this will be like kind of the last two properties I talk about before I give you a crazy conspiracy theory, and then we'll be done. But these next two houses are around the airport as well. So the first one is the Darling Seed Company house. Now this house, Al Gerhardt, our gangster, actually bought. He bought this house after the Manitou shut down, and he continued gambling in this house. It was owned by the Darling Seed Company. It was used as a bulb house. They were a seed company. They did crops and stuff, and so this house was used to store the bulbs or grow the bulbs or whatever. And we've heard a lot of, we know a little bit about it, and we've heard a lot of it from our good friend, Chris, who's no longer with us. And he had been in it with Rick Wiles, and that's who had given us these pictures. We've never walked over there. We don't want to, it's not our property. We don't want to trespass. But we made a video about it, or about a shot-up car that we found in the woods right next to it, and someone commented on it. So I'm going to read the comment. And this is kind of what inspired this new talk, is just rumors. Like, me and Emma, if you aren't aware, make weekly videos about the Manitou, and we post it on Facebook and Instagram. And the whole purpose of that is just to share the history and educate people and kind of gather stories. A lot of these stories are heard through firsthand accounts through people, and that's really the only way we're going to hear the stories. And it's our goal to hear them, understand them, and try to prove them. And when we're able to prove them, we call them ponytails. So it's like a tall tale, but one with some actual sources, and that is true. So we posted this video near this house, and this woman wrote, "As kids, we always believed that was Al Capone's car. Story says the house with the trees planted to fill the driveway at the airport was his home too. The tunnels 2 ways in and out of rooms were so unique to us. Yes, I realized this is just what we were told as children." And I wasn't quite sure what house she was talking about. And then she circled it for us. And if you ever kind of go on Google Maps, you look around the airport, this is kind of where the Wendy's used to be down here, or whatever it's called now, Johan's Burger Express. But right here, there's an anomaly in the woods, in the tree line, of just like an indent, which is essentially, there's just like a whole row. These are CCC trees, and there's a whole row that is not planted, either not planted or unable to grow on top of. And so that was quite literally the second building we've heard around the airport with a tunnel leaving the building going towards the airport. And it's a little far from the Manitou. In fact, it's like the opposite side of the airport.
We also recently heard a rumor that Al Capone's mom's house was one of the houses down in, was that Weequay?
Yeah, Weequay.
Down in Weequay.
The castle house.
With the giant, the only one that has a tree in front of it that has like a stream and stuff. We just made a video about it this winter, but if you're ever down there, it's the really pretty one with like the stonework. Apparently it was Al Capone's mom, so next time you see it.
According to lore. The next one I'm going to say, this is the last kind of property I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to go into a big old conspiracy. This rumor, it's our last but freshest rumor, is about the White House on the corner. I recently heard this rumor from my good friend Pablo. He straight up told me that the White House on the corner goes 7 stories underground. That's what he said. He didn't really elaborate. But I was like, what? Are you serious? I've never heard of the Manitou going 7 stories underground. And he was very adamant to correct me and say it was this house right here. It's right there. So where you see this heart, that is the Manitou. This is 7 stories underground. And this is the Darling Seed Company house. So that makes 3 houses around the airport with some weird tunnel activity. That's all we really know about the 7 stories underground house. We're dying to learn more. The daughter of the owners of the house messaged me on Facebook. So I hope this summer we get to go at least 2, 3, 4 stories underground. One thing we learned at the Manitou that's very true is just because you don't see a tunnel doesn't mean it's not there. At the Manitou, there's been 3 owners before Tim, and those 3 owners individually have sealed up tunnels and not told each other, and it's up to us to figure out where they are. Let's see, now we're going to go into the last part of our talk, and then we're done. Okay. The title of this part is just called Our Dumb New Rumor. So just bear with me. We're going to talk about Al Gerhardt, the Colonial Club, and the Greenbrier Hotel. Has anyone ever heard of the Greenbrier Hotel in West Virginia? Does anyone know what's underneath the Greenbrier Hotel in West Virginia? You do? All right, well, I'm going to talk about it, so don't spoil the ending. All right. Al Gerhardt opened the Colonial Club Casino, here it is, in White Silver Springs, West Virginia, around the mid-50s. The date is unclear, but it's mid-50s to early 60s. This photo is actually from the daughter of the current owners of the Colonial Club. Emma, I don't know if I told you. They're coming out of the woodwork on Facebook. If you ever want to do historical research, I swear, at Facebook, you find everyone. This was his club, and his club, the Colonial Club, catered exclusively to patrons at the Greenbrier Hotel. So the Greenbrier Hotel had an exclusive valet chauffeur type service that you walk out the hotel, you get in the car, it takes you right to the Colonial Club and brings you back. That didn't take you to any other casino. And there were other casinos, but somehow Al Gerhardt got the scoop, and everyone at the Greenbrier went to him. I should have a picture. The Greenbrier looks kind of like the White House or the Grand Hotel. It is a ginormous resort that was built by a train, I don't know what the right word is, conglomerate company, by a huge train company. They built it. Anyway, let's go through my notes here. It was raided, so his club, the Colonial Club, was raided and shut down in 1963. That's when Bobby Kennedy ran all over him, and that's when he scurried back to Crooked Lake and built his moated mansion. In true gangster fashion, nothing stuck with Al Gerhardt in West Virginia for many different reasons, but just par for the course. He never gets in prison. The only time he did go to prison once for shooting at a farmer in Charlevoix after stealing trees from him. Because like anyone from Harbor Springs, we hate Charlevoix, just like Al Gerhardt. So but kudos to Charlevoix. I mean, they got the only ones to get our gangster in prison. So shout out Charlevoix. You got to win there.
And the trees are still there. The trees that he stole, they protect our club. So in the summertime, you can't see the club thanks to the trees he stole. So thanks to Al for that. We appreciate it.
So he got in trouble on a technicality. I mean, he was openly gambling and stuff, but he would send promotional poker chips in the mail, which I'm now realizing, I mean, there's no monetary value, but I sent one to Teeny in the mail, just like Al Gerhardt. And sending a poker chip in the mail, it's like bribery or some kind of crap like that. They got him on a technicality, but he got away. So there's a whole court document about it, a whole case. There's some headlines about it. It was more embarrassing for the town when this went to court. It was embarrassing for the Greenbrier. It was embarrassing for a lot of people there. And I kind of thought that's where the story ended in West Virginia at the Greenbrier with, our gangster Al getting run out of town and coming home. But in 1992, the Washington Post published an article about a dumb at the Greenbrier. Does anyone know what a dumb is? Like D-U-M-B, the acronym. It stands for Deep Underground Military Base. Trump is building one at the White House right now. So this article exposed this deep underground military base at the Greenbrier Hotel. It was under the Eisenhower administration. It was called Project Greek Island, that they were to build a big bunker under the Greenbrier, and they did. It opened right around the same time the Colonial Club, Al Gerhardt's casino, opened. It was 2 stories. A lot of reports say it was 720 feet underground. That's incorrect. I was able to meet, via Facebook, the 40-year historian of the Greenbrier Hotel. He was the historian before this bunker was exposed and after. So he was actually the historian there, and he told me he wasn't quite sure. He didn't know what was going on under his feet. He didn't know. But he knew right after. The Washington Post exposed this deep underground military base, and the United States government quickly decommissioned it, basically, and then scurried off somewhere else. Who knows where the next one is? It was meant to keep the Congress safe during the Cold War, essentially. They were worried about nuclear fallout. It was completed and opened. It was started by Eisenhower, but it was completed and opened by the Kennedy administration. So I like to think maybe Bobby Kennedy was like looking out for their investment and was like, we don't want any Jewish gangsters down near our government bunker with every single congressman. So I don't know. There might have been some just a house cleaning going on. I wrote that. He probably didn't want top government officials gambling and gossiping at the Jewish gangster casino. That's probably not what they wanted. Which brings us to our very last rumor. I'm going to show you some more photos of the Greenbrier. This is the deep underground military base being built. I don't know what those are. Maybe they're, air vents. Here's like a more current picture of it. This is way more intense than what we have in our basement, but
That we know of.
the funny thing about our basement is it's one of 2 basements. There's a second basement at the Manitou that we haven't technically been in yet. So, and this is where the Congress would sit in case of nuclear fallout, nuclear war. They would come in here and hold their Congress, and they had some bunk beds. They were all crammed down there. A lot of people think it's much bigger than it was. It wasn't that big, but it was there. So kind of our last rumor, kind of just speculation is, well, is there a deep underground military base at the Harbor Springs Airport? There's a lot of weird similarities here between Al Gerhardt being here and there and all this other stuff, but I'm going to talk about 3, and then we'll be done. There's just some weird coincidences, and I'm just feeling like, why not? Why not? Who cares? At this point, anything's possible. Why not a deep underground military base? Let's think about it. So the first thing I often think about, although I think this is kind of, I think I missed a slide, but one thing we keep finding in our basement is copper, sheets of copper, and it's just weird. We heard from someone whose uncle did work on the club that the sheets of copper are actually inside the doors of the secret rooms in the club. And these doors are 5-inch thin concrete, steel reinforced doors. It is crazy down there. We'll show you a video at the end where you can watch us walk through the whole club. But the copper, we were told, was to be inside the doors in case the cops took a blowtorch to the door. And then the copper would heat up and they'd turn around or give up or something. But that didn't make a lot of sense to me. What it does sound like to me is a Faraday cage, which is something that people use to prevent spying. The CIA building has copper all over it. It's usually in, mesh, not sheets of copper, but who knows what's going on. Emma and I have actually been inside of one of the second basement tunnels, technically. We've not been in the second basement. We've been in the opening of a tunnel into the second basement. And it's fascinating. My microphone cuts out right when I go through the hole, as if there's a whole copper sheet around me preventing radio frequencies getting in and out. And that's really when I started getting a little weirded out, to be honest. Like, it was cute to think of copper in the doors. Like, that is cute to think of someone taking a blowtorch. But when I can't talk to her from my microphone, I get a little creeped out. One of the things they said about the Greenbrier, and this one's a little bit more of a stretch, but it's interesting to think about, is they say that the locals knew something was up at the Greenbrier when they extended the airport to accommodate military aircraft. Because all these, military personnel are coming to the deep underground military base, but they couldn't land in the small airport. So the White Sulphur Springs, they doubled the size of the airport. As you know, you guys know where the Harbor Airport is. You can't extend it at a certain point. It gets to a swampy area, down they're all nature preserves. Can't be extended. It was extended briefly at one point, but it just can't accommodate for military aircraft. However, the Pellston Airport can. And the Pellston Airport was actually built with federal funds to do just that. Let's see, the Harbor Airport, yeah, got it. Oh, wow, I said it almost exactly the same. The location, okay, so it was specifically built with federal funds. I have an article here. Pellston Airport, seen as strategic, work nearly completed on field near the Sulaks, may become an Army base. They were really considering, not really considering the Army base, but they really built it to consider military aircraft, specifically with our proximity to the Sulaks. During wartime, the Sulaks are very important to the infrastructure of shipping and material. It's critical for essential wartime materials. The construction happened shortly after the Harbor Airport was finished. I don't know, it's just interesting that, I was looking for a smoking gun, seeing that they extended the Harbor Airport, and they didn't. But they built this other one that looks very similar. But my last and favorite conspiracy regarding this, and quite frankly, my favorite story regarding the Manitou, is about the Indian naming ceremony. Has anyone heard of the Ottawa Indian naming ceremony here in Harbor? Okay, I'm going to educate all of you. This is great. Meryl, I think you're the only one raising your hand. Anyway, the Ottawa Indian naming ceremony. This town had a long tradition of hosting the Ottawa Indian naming ceremony. It was basically the annual festival where the tribe would pick 2 to 4 token white guys and give them an Indian chief name. Ceremonies were held at the Ottawa Stadium. That beautiful stadium was not built for football. It was built for the Indian naming ceremony. That's what it was built for. Let's see, I have some pictures. Here's kind of a pamphlet for the Indian naming ceremony. This one is, I don't know what year, it doesn't have a year. But that Indian is pointing right at Harbor Springs, right at the Ottawa Stadium. This is what the Ottawa Stadium looked like back in the day. It wasn't as fancy. This might have been when it first opened. But here we have, I found so many great images on Greenwood of these ceremonies. Here we have all these people on the stage where, Emma, you will be graduating in less than a month from this stage. There's a lot of history on this stage. The interesting thing about this country is they made it illegal for Native American Indians to celebrate their religious beliefs out loud, in public, and it sucked. But here in Harbor Springs, they did this. They had the Indian naming ceremony. And from talking with some of my Indian friends and learning about their history with the white people, their take on it is they're very clever. They've just kind of snuck in these ceremonies and holidays around the white guys' holidays, and they've worked with the local white people, and this is kind of the best way to explain it. I always talk about this story on the tours that we give, how important the Indian naming ceremony is to this community, especially for the tribe. In the 90s, when the tribe sought federal recognition, one of the questions on the form was, have you shared your culture with your community? Which is kind of insulting considering they kind of made that illegal. But our tribe was actually, yes, we have. We've been doing this Indian naming ceremony forever, man. And they're okay, great. Boom. And they got their recognition. And now who owns the casino in this town? Anyway, the ceremony took place at the Ottawa Stadium. Here's some photos. And every year the ceremonial dinner happened at Club Manitou. And this is where it gets really weird. So in the early Indian naming ceremonies, they honored locals and summer residents. Prominent people my friend's grandpa, the dentist. there was just like local people that were named, but as the years rolled on and the war picked up, all of a sudden they started naming more and more generals and admirals here. And then in 1948, they actually adopted Dwight D. Eisenhower into the tribe and gave him a chief name. And if you were paying attention earlier, he's the president that ordered that bunker under the Greenbrier Hotel. It's very interesting. But he was named here. He didn't make it. He was fighting a war, actually. He wasn't president yet. But I always found, that's when I was like, what is going on? So I talked to Bob Conti at the Greenbrier, and I was going a little crazy with him. I was like, what does this mean? And he's unclear. But here's a list of all the guys that were named. It's not a complete list. More people were named that aren't on here. But I've highlighted two. The first is General Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1948. His Indian name is, and don't kill me, Melissa, if you're watching or if you're here, Pakosigon, meaning magic blend in the peace pipe. So that was Dwight D. Eisenhower's name. And then the other one is Dr. Thomas Graham. And his nickname was Makes Face Smile. And this is how dumb I am. I always thought, well, I know the Grahams pretty well, and they have a lot of dirty, funny jokes, and maybe that's what they're talking about. It makes you smile, but he was a dentist, so it makes more sense there. And that's pretty much it. I'll end with this, though. We do give tours now in the summer, and if you're a Ponytail teen or anyone that's interested, you can come by and come on a tour. It's really fun. We go in the basement, we go in some tunnels, I show you the airport, we overlook the airport. It's been really a joy to do it. Before I end, I'd like to thank some people, and then we're going to do questions, and we totally forgot to hand out the sticky notes. But we'll go around, and if you have questions or, more importantly, rumors, we'd like to hear them. I always end by thanking all these different people, and I might still have it down at the bottom of this. Look at that. I think I do.
Oh, and then we also got to talk about the books as well.
Yes,
we also
of
have
course.
some books for sale.
Yeah, so the few people I want to thank is, number one, Carla Buckmaster. If you want to learn anything about the local history and pay $0 to learn it, go to northernmishmashpreserve.weebly.com. You can look up a topic, Club Manitou, and her website will come up, You could Google it. But Carla Buckmaster is our dear friend, and her whole style is she'll go into the archives, read newspapers, and get them all organized on a page and write about the local history. And so when I was preparing this talk, I always go to her page and read about the airports and the club, and she finds more stuff than I ever will. It's remarkable. So thank you, Carla. Meryl Henke, who is here today, she has told me so much about Al Gerhardt. It's really hard to make a film and humanize a person who's long been dead, and you're too far gone to even had a chance to meet them. And Meryl Henke was his neighbor for many, many years and knew him very well. And she's told us a lot of stories that have made it into the talk today. Rick Wiles and Chris Struble, two really good friends. Rick, I would say, is the OG kind of true crime conspiracy historian up here. He's written about other stuff, of course, too, but I first met him when I was interested in the Goodhart murders, and then I was interested in Club Ponytail and Club Manitou. He had already written about all of them. And Chris Struble is our very good friend who has recently passed away. He owned a jewelry shop in Petoskey called Arlington Jewelers, and I used to go in there and distract him for hours, and I would watch these people come in and ask if their jewelry was ready and if it was cleaned, and I was the reason it wasn't ready and wasn't cleaned, because he would talk to me for hours about Club Manitou and Club Ponytail. And he has brought a lot of tours over to the Manitou, and the reason we light it up purple is for Chris, to remember Chris. So whenever you drive by, although we haven't done it this season yet, and you see it purple, it's for Chris. I also want to thank, although there's no slide for it, Mark Huck, which we'll kind of talk about this book now. So Mark Huck is the son of the third owners, Judy Landis and Keen Landis. Well, he's not the son of Keen, but he's the son of Judy. And Mark Huck has written a nonfiction book on the Manitou, but he also, in the last year or so, wrote 2 fiction books about the Manitou that explore the idea that there might be a deep underground military base at the Harbor Springs Airport. And if you're interested in buying the books, we have a handful of them here tonight, in which all the money will go to the nonprofit. and they'll actually go into our hat fund. We have a lot of people asking for hats and other merch, and we'll buy a bunch of hats, and that way people can buy it. What's the other thing I was going to say? Yeah, Mark Huck. And if you don't have, I don't know, if we run out of books, we have a bunch of cards in which you can go buy it online. And, I was going to say I'm a character in his book. So the way he kind of ended up writing this book is he came to visit the Manitou after Tim bought it, and he sat down, and although I might have a picture of it, if you come over to the Manitou, you might see this crazy wall of sticky notes. And I sat down Mark, and I was like, listen, man, this is crazy. There's a lot of stuff going on. And he walked away flabbergasted about maybe who the Landis family could be, who exactly was the Ponytail, blah, blah, blah. You know, he was at a renewed interest. And he wrote this whole beautiful fiction series in which I'm some sort of private investigator, journalist that disappears in the tunnels. So you can go read about me getting tormented. And here's some of the pictures of the tunnels. Oh, we didn't really show any real pictures of the tunnels.
Oh, this is one of the other properties we were talking about, the one that folds down with the gambling stuff. Here it is in its glory.
It's actually the frame of a car they used to hold up the floor. So when those cops came, apparently someone shoved a chair under the counterweight so it couldn't open. And here's a depiction of what the club might look like, although, but I will play this little video. So if you want to see kind of a walkthrough of the club, I'll just play this on silent, and you'll get an idea of what it's like. It might be hard for all of you to see, so I'll just leave it up here. And actually, I'll pause it. I want to do Q&A. If anyone has questions or answers or rumors,
I can go down.
Emma will run and find you.
Ooh. And while we do that, could Marcy Spencer please go grab those books?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. They're upstairs in the office, and maybe a friend to go with her.
Maybe Terrence and
David
could go help them.
Okay, I'll come around. If anyone would like to ask a question or has a story to tell, I don't know, identify yourself in some way. This is your chance. Any questions?
You can call me crazy, too, if you want.
Yeah, you can critique Taylor. You can cosplay me for the day.
You can just tell me if you went to the Ponytail and who you saw.
Yeah. Was anyone here? I think we saw someone down here that was at the Ponytail. Was someone here at the Ponytail? Over here? There we go. Well, we've got two over here. What date were you there? Do you remember?
We went there when we were in high school, and maybe were just barely old enough, and you would they would put a sticker on your hand, that would show under a black light, and the place was magical. It was really cool. I don't know. Yeah, we saw all kinds of bands.
Did you see Seeger?
Well, yeah. Question mark. Mysterians, I think I might have seen. Yeah, and some others I can't remember. It's cool. It was very cool, and it was jam-packed, crowded. Yeah, really neat. Yeah.
That is awesome. What about you? Do you remember when you were there?
Yeah, summers from 66 to 69. So I saw a lot of bands. It was really great.
Any notable ones?
Well, let's see, Animals. I don't remember seeing but I remember Sam the Sham and the Detroit Wheels, Amboy Dukes, and there were others, but I don't remember.
Thank you.
It was really great. And one of the fun things was we'd go to the bar and order a rum and coke. So of course we were like teenagers. They didn't give us real rum, but they would give us the flavored rum, like you could get it. And they put it in our coke, and it was just like drinking rum and coke. We thought it was really cool.
Oh, we've never heard that one before. That's kind of fun. I love that. What about back here? Anyone have any questions? Come on, guys. Don't make me just walk in a circle. Questions? Poppy has a question.
I just wonder, were they open year-round? Did they close down at all in the winter when it snowed?
That's a good question. So the Ponytail kind of was open a little longer than the Manitou ever was. The Manitou was just, those gangsters were here in the summer, and then in the winter they went to Florida, and in this season they went there. Like, they were all over the country. But the Ponytail tried to stay open a little longer throughout, not just in summer, but when it burned to the ground, I don't think there were any I know there wasn't anyone in the building, but I don't think it was really open for business. Thank you.
Good question. What about over here? Anyone? I see you. You were there too? Do you remember? You see anyone?
Saw the turtles. And I remember a lot of people were sneaking outside and drinking and smoking.
Sounds about right.
That's why we kept writing, kids don't drink, right? They drank a lot in the parking lot at Club Manitou, or Club Ponytail. Did you have one?
So I know you said that the Club Manitou, like, locals weren't allowed, but like it seems like the Ponytail Club, the locals were the only ones allowed. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it was, I call it like, I think everyone in this town that like kind of had a childhood in this town, whether it's a local kid or a summer resorter kid, I always consider them like a class of the Ponytail teenagers. Because the Ponytail was open to all of them. It was open to local kids, summer kids, and it didn't stop there. It was kids from like all over the state. They would drive here from like all over to get up here. And so like you had this tiny town of Harbor Springs, and then you have like 5,000 people at Club Ponytail, and it's like there's like maybe 500 kids in this town. So they came from all over, and kind of after the Ponytail closed, a different music venue took over in Charlevoix called The Castle, and that attracted even more giant numbers of people. So yeah, it was open to everyone. They would take any kids, 250.
Ruby's. One time Buck was there when it was raided.
Ruby's Tavern?
Yeah, they just went to the woods.
So I'll talk about Ruby's real quick. There is a sticky note I have over here of like extra properties that I didn't have time for, and Ruby's was one of them. So there's a restaurant kind of where Quick meets Pleasant View Road, right on the opposite side of the road, called Ruby's Tavern. And Ruby's Tavern was the bar for like kind of the help in town. So like, whereas like the help were not allowed in the little harbor club to drink, they weren't allowed at the Manitou to drink, but they could go to Ruby's Tavern. And Ruby's was owned and operated by a black woman named Ruby Braxton. And Ruby Braxton's a phenomenal character, because like at that time in the 40s and 50s, it's kind of absurd and unheard of to hear this. Like, it wasn't her husband that owned it, it was her on the paper, she owned it. And I was talking to a gentleman named Scott Bernstein, and Scott is a descendant of our Purple Gangsters. And Scott Bernstein's a great investigative journalist, and he has a lot of different kind of outlets, YouTube channels, websites, articles dedicated to the gangster report, as he calls it. He reports on every gangster in this country. But I'm really just focused on the Purple Gang, and I've talked to him for a long time about it. And one of my favorite questions to ask as a documentarian at the end of an interview is there something I forgot to ask? Is there something you're dying to tell me? Or some sort of weird tidbit that you've never been able to publish or whatever, right? Is there anything cool? And he goes, yeah, I got something cool. I was at a book signing, and this black guy came up to me, and he said, my mom dated Abe Bernstein, the leader of the Purple Gang, like for 20 years or something like that, right? Like, they dated forever, and they never got married because of the racism of the time. And I go, that's so interesting. All right, bye. And I was like sitting at the Grand Boathouse in Harbor Springs listening to Mayor Tom Graham talk about Ruby Braxton, this wonderful black woman that he used to deliver groceries to. He was a grocery delivery boy, and he would deliver groceries to her tavern, to her bar. And whenever he'd come over, she'd go, oh, there's my boy Tom, there he is. And I squeeze his cheek and stuff. And then I just couldn't stop thinking about it, and I called Scott Bernstein, and I said, was Abe Bernstein's girlfriend named Ruby? And he said, yep. I go, okay, well, I think she owned a bar here in Harbor Springs during the summer months. And he's like, it wouldn't surprise me. So one of the funny things about our gangster, Al Gerhardt, the guy who worked for Abe Bernstein, is he used to say he provided 90% of the liquor to everyone in town. And I always thought that meant like if you wanted a case of booze, you'd go to Al Gerhardt. But he meant every restaurant and every country club and every bar in town. So while Ruby Braxton's Tavern got raided all the time, I think mainly just because of maybe, I don't know, racism, I have no real idea. It's funny because that woman was dating the head of the Purple Gang, and all her booze came from the Purple Gang. So I don't know if it was just a raid for the optics of it or what, but it's really strange. I'm glad you asked me about that. Anytime I get to talk about Tom, I'm happy.
We got a question right back here.
I have a question. When you see all those Bernstein signs for the law firm downstate, are they related to your gangster?
Well, no, that's according to them.
We can't confirm or deny.
There's like a rule in true crime documentary, golden rule, don't get sued. So I'm not going to talk about the Bernstein law firm and claim anything that's true or untrue. But to be honest, I've talked to Scott Bernstein about it. I don't know if there's a real connection, but I do find it funny that like Sam Bernstein, the gangster, is like he's a bad guy, you know? So I don't know.
Oh,
Meryl.
right over here. Meryl.
The four original brothers were spelled B-U-R-N-S-T-E-I-N. That's how they spelled their name whenever they were arrested.
Mm-hmm.
And guys was Lesher. There were four brothers that were in the Purple Gang.
Mm-hmm.
And one was a professional boxer.
Was that Joe?
No, I think it started with an E, Eddie.
Oh, Eddie Fletcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eddie Fletcher.
Yeah, well, their sister was married to Sam Bernstein,
Oh.
that was up here.
Mm-hmm.
And their names are spelled different.
Mm-hmm.
They went to different schools, but Sammy, B-E-R-N, is related to the lawyers. They went to the same school. They're all related.
Wow.
Then there was another Bernstein that was spelled B-E-R-N. Well, we don't know if that's the original spelling or not. He was part of the sugar heritage in Detroit that the Purple Gang took over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they aren't blood related.
Okay.
But Sammy Bernstein was blood related to the Fleshers.
Interesting. You gotta meet the
kids.
nephew we just met. We just met him via Facebook, but you gotta talk to him.
Yeah.
He wants to learn more about his family.
Yeah, there's a guy, Daniel Waugh,
Yes.
at the Historical Society,
Mhm.
and he's got a book. He was a taxi driver.
Yeah.
So he has video of all the. He is very nice.
Yeah.
On the
I know.
Purple Gang.
I've talked to Daniel. He's great.
Yeah. So the lawyers were not in the Purple Gang.
Thank
Their
you.
cousin was.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Don't get sued, guys.
Thank you for clarifying so we don't get a fat bill.
Okay. Keep going.
So where did the people stay that were gambling at Club Manitou?
Oh my God! What a great question.
Good question.
There's like another few buildings here I wanted to talk about, but as you can see, I didn't have enough time. So yeah, like I said, there's always a healthy relationship between speakeasy casinos, and hotels. And I just say like a lot of these gangsters that were in our orbit, a lot of the owners of these hotels or these casinos ended up opening casinos in Vegas. And what you'll see, the difference between Midwest gangsters and East Coast gangsters or West Coast gangsters is the Midwest gangsters, they didn't open hotel casinos, they opened resort casinos. So our gangsters, when they got to Vegas, they opened casinos with shopping centers, spas, golf courses, multiple restaurants. Their thought process being, you walk on the property and you don't step off. You spend all your money here. A little Disney World action. I like to believe they learned that from operating in places like Harbor Springs. Harbor Springs, the reason they opened up here originally anyway is because it's a resort town. People are already attracted here to the beauty and the lake and the ski hills and whatever, the golf courses. They didn't have to build that. The attraction was already here. And they had they were like shooting fish in a barrel off the point. There's a lot of wealthy people. And so when they opened here, they learned that although their casino was fun and successful, these people walked off the property to go stay at a hotel somewhere. You know, they had to, or back to their cottage. So they ended up having very healthy relationships with the local hotels. And you'll see after the casinos disappear around here, as do the hotels. And some of them burned to the ground, some of the hotels. and fires of unknown origin, which is a very fun way of saying arson, unsolved arson. So there are a few hotels in our area. The Ramona Park Hotel was one of them. The Colonial Inn Hotel in Harbor Springs had a relationship with our gangsters. The Birchwood Inn, now the Otis Hotel, that's where we can track Meyer Lansky driving the tunnel of trees. He stays there, he golfs in Birchwood. And then my favorite is the Roaring Brook Inn. The Roaring Brook Inn was this little hotel in the community of Roaring Brook. And that's one of the hotels that just burnt to the ground once all the casinos were gone. And that is likely arson. If you ask me, it's arson. If you ask the police officers at the time, they don't know. And then months later, they say probably arson. But it was never ruled arson. It was just this really suspicious fire. And so, yeah, that hotel is gone. The Ramona Park Hotel, which later turned into the Harbor Inn, was torn down, dismantled. I was just getting old, and now it's a summer resort community. The Weekly Hotel got busted for gambling. Now it's a croquet court. So where the Weekly Hotel used to be is now a croquet court. Much to the great enjoyment of the neighbors. The neighbors got a view of the water after that thing was torn down. But really the only hotels that remain are the Perry, which used to be the Perry Davis, which also has connection to our gangsters, the Otis, and then whatever the heck's going on at Boyne. They're their own operation over there. They have a spa or a hotel or something. I don't know. But yeah, they couldn't exist without hotels. And that's not the reason there aren't any hotels really around here anymore, but it was just a different time. Harbor had like a lot more day visitors and weekend visitors back then. We had big steamships bringing in weekend people, and now it's more just kind of seasonal residents. Awesome. So if there's no more questions, we have books if you're interested in buying. If you want to just take a card, you can buy it later from Mark. We also have stickers up here. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And there's Venmo. What's your Venmo if they want to do that?
I'll just tell them, if you want to buy this, you can just Venmo me or Cash App me or give me money or whatever. The books are each $20. And the proceeds go to the nonprofit. We're dying to get some merch out there for people to show their support. And yeah, thank you for coming. Thank you for being patient with us. And thank you for kind of following our little conspiracy theories here. And we hope you learned something. And we hope to see you sometime at the club. We'll take you down in a tunnel and here's some ghosts. We have one more question.
Oh, gotcha.
And the club is haunted. You can ask me or Emma. We've heard it.
We have stories.
Thank you. What a great question.
Great question.
You can look up my name and you'll find, well, you can actually go to Google and type in Club Manitou and you'll find our website, Spirit of the Manitou. And that's the name of our nonprofit. And on there is the links to everything you are looking for, like our Instagram and our Facebook. My name is Taylor DeWicki, so if you look that up on Facebook, you'll find all of it. If you look up Ponytails on Facebook, you'll find it. And then on Instagram, which is where all of our videos live and later are put on Facebook, on Instagram it's official Ponytails. And Ponytail is spelled Ponytales. The idea being we got a lot of tales here to decipher over at the Club Ponytail. Thank you for asking.
Any last questions? No one? Oh!
One more.
One more. All right.
Have you heard that there are gambling machines buried on the property?
Have we?
Where?
On the property of the Ponytail.
Where are they buried? Tell me.
I believe it's to the west of where the building was, where it burned. Either where the building was, or this to the west of it. I have a friend who was there at the time of the fire, and he was there when he saw the backhoes putting dirt over all the gambling machines.
Get your shovel. It's time.
Is Nate here? I just saw him earlier. I don't know if he's still back there.
Nate?
but Nate told me a story. Right where you're talking about those are buried is a suitcase full of money buried. All right. I haven't seen it, but someone just contacted me like 2 days ago after the most recent video we made. And he had found what looked like a roulette wheel, but it's not. It's a different gambling game. And he was like, it's under the floorboards of this house. And the house is downtown Harbor Springs. And we're trying to understand why it would be there. And one of the things that Al Gerhardt used to do is because he paid off all these police and all these different professional people, he would know when he was getting raided. And what he would do is he'd pack up all his equipment and he'd go to another part of town and do like a mobile casino. He would open a casino at someone's house for the day and they'd gamble there while the cops went and raided Manitou. And I don't know if that's why this gambling equipment was in the house in Harbor. The house, as Nate said, is currently for sale. This kid said it was under the floorboards and his dad only found it because they were pulling up the floorboards. So I don't know if I can go to a house that's listed for sale and start pulling up floorboards, but he said there was more stuff down there. So actually one of the things I think we'll do like a call to action is if anyone anywhere in Petoskey, Harbor Springs, Charlevoix finds old gambling equipment, just give us a call and let us know. It might be from Manitou. We found that little roulette type wheel, which is for a different type of game. It's a similar kind of gambling game. And then Chris Struble, our friend who passed away, we used to give talks together and he would kind of carry them and he would talk about, he was very good at remembering when people came up and told him stories. And one of the people came up to him with 2 jars of poker chips that he either found on the Manitou property or on the airport property. It's unclear to me. But he had 2 jars of chips and then like 2 or 4 jars of dice, both loaded and unloaded dice. And the poker chips, the most peculiar part is the poker chips had swastikas on them. But this club it opened in 1929 and we think maybe it was before Hitler kind of took over the design of the swastika. If you look at old newspapers of this area, northern Michigan, Harbor Springs, it used to say vacation land and it would have a swastika on either side, but it was a Native American symbol at the time, so it wasn't known as a kind of a Nazi thing.
And we knew it was loaded and unloaded because they labeled them.
Yeah, they labeled them.
One of them loaded and the other one unloaded. So at least they were smart gangsters in that way.
Yeah.
And I will tell a story about Taylor. When he started first digging up at the Ponytail, he found a barrel in the ground and just decided to open up the barrel. There could have been a body in there, there could have been guns in there, but Taylor thought, no, let's just look in the barrel. Luckily, there's nothing in the barrel.
I think I went home and I Googled it, and it was like a 55-gallon drum filled with sand and rocks. And halfway through digging through it, I go, I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
It could be a body. And then I Googled it, and they said, oh, this is how people disposed of old used motor oil back in the day. They put it in a barrel and dig it, bury it. And I'm going to say one last story, and then we'll actually cut. Linda Douglas, the woman I keep talking about, Princess of the Ponytail, for the longest time, we kept hearing about this tunnel to the airport. If you come on a tour, we'll go in tunnels. They do not take you to the airport. There's a funny thing about where the house is and where the airport is and where the road is. You got to go deep. You got to go very far down to get under that road to the airport. And in the basement of the Manitou, when the Manitou closed and the Ponytail took over, they made like one change to the basement. And in the corner of the basement, they built 2 bathrooms, one for boys, one for girls, 2 little stalls. And if you go down there, on the walls of these bathrooms are all this graffiti from teenagers in the 60s, talking about the boys they liked, about the girls they hated, and like drawing some inappropriate stuff. And that's the only place in the basement where the floor is elevated. So like the whole basement kind of looks like foundation, an unfinished basement with a foundation. And then there's the bathroom, and you like walk up into the bathroom. But when the Douglases bought it from Al Gerhardt, and he was showing them the property, obviously that bathroom wasn't there yet. It was just a corner of a basement with freshly poured concrete. And they're like, what is going on here? And he goes, oh, that's just the tunnel to the second basement. Don't worry about it. There's nothing of value down there. And what Linda said to me is, Taylor, what do you find valuable? There could be a gun down there. There could be some bootlegging bottles. But to me, I've heard 3 different independent stories now about vehicles being down in these tunnels. So I think there's a lot more to the second basement, and we aren't anywhere near close to opening that. It's kind of like Pandora's box at this point. I don't want to open it.
Well, you should say why we don't open it, because everyone's going to ask us why we don't open it.
Why don't we open it?
Because we want to get it on video.
Well, we could film it.
But we
I
also
don't know.
don't
It's a
know
little
if it's
scary.
like
It's a
holding
little
up
scary.
the whole building. It
Yeah.
could be like the final straw that breaks the camel's back. So
We have a rule. It's just don't die in a tunnel, so we're just going to be careful. It's our only rule. All right, that's it. You can come say hi. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I didn't get to say the Ponytail kid line, but that's what I